This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution.
And that was former President Trump reacting to the jury's verdict, finding him guilty on all 34 counts in the New York trial. President Biden also reacting to the verdict yesterday on X, writing this: there's only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office, at the ballot box. Joining me now is former acting U.S. Attorney General and Trump surrogate, Matt Whitaker. AG Whitaker, good to see you. Your reaction to this verdict?
Good morning. Well, it's a sad day in American history, and as someone that's been a federal prosecutor and run the Department of Justice, I can tell you that I'm concerned for the future of our country. And this isn't the United States system of justice. We saw a judge that committed so much reversible error it even had to be admitted on liberal news channels. How many mistakes this judge made, from allowing Stormy Daniels to testify so broadly and prejudicing the jury, to his instructions that gave the jury a Chinese menu of options to convict the former president. So, someone like Donald Trump is going to have to fight hard to continue to move forward. But, if you would describe, Maria, a country where a fake dossier was made by political opponents, where, a person was trying to be kept off the ballot, where he's been charged in multiple jurisdictions, and so many other anomalies that only apply to Donald Trump, you wouldn't think that was the United States of America. You would think it was some third world country. But here we are, and it is unprecedented, and we're all going to have to do unprecedented things in order to maintain and restore our republic.
It sure is quite extraordinary. Even, many of the things that Judge Merchan did throughout the trial, agreeing with the prosecution over and over again in terms of, sustaining the objections. Then at the end, Judge Merchan set Trump's sentencing hearing for July 11th, just 4 days before the Republican National Convention. I mean, come on, that is right there in the middle of the election. Trump appellate team attorney Will Scharf was on a special report last night to discuss possible next steps. Watch this.
This case is replete with reversible error, going back to the very first day, continuing through jury instructions. Every aspect of this case is ripe for appeal. We are going to appeal as quickly as we can. We will seek expedited review of this case, and we're going to trust that the appellate courts in New York understand the dangerous Pandora's box that this lawless judgment has opened, and that they understand the potential ramifications to our legal system.
So, AG Whitaker, what about that? Tell us what an appeal might look like and what the Trump team will likely do next, or should do.
Well, obviously, they're not giving up the fight anytime soon. But what's going to happen is, I think most likely you'll see a multi-pronged approach, and you're going to see probably an appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court in order to get some relief and an ability to hold this unprecedented and most likely illegal judgment against President Trump in abeyance until these appeals can run out. But they have 30 days to appeal to the New York, the next level of the New York Appeals Court. New York's always been confusing because for some reason only they call their trial court the Supreme Court. And so for most Americans, it doesn't make any sense. But that being said, you'll see this methodical march through the appeals court, making very legitimate and constitutionally sound arguments of how, to Will's point, how President Trump's rights have been violated time and time again by Judge Merchan in order to get to this day where they can call President Trump a convicted felon, or in their parlance, a justice-involved person.
And to take Michael Cohen seriously is just another spectacle. The former attorney for Trump reacted to the verdict on MSNBC last night, blasting Trump's defense. Watch this.
You cannot listen to your client when you are trying to create a defense that is as important as this one is. The very first president of the United States, former president, to ever be charged with a crime, let alone convicted now on 34 counts. It was definitively the stupidest lawyer of all time. Worse than some of the other ones that he has, in his orbit.
Yeah, maybe like him, Michael Cohen. I mean, this is rich. Whitaker, Matt Whitaker, to give this guy the platform on MSNBC. Your reaction?
Well, I mean, he's obviously been a useful idiot for the left for quite some time now because he's a Trump critic and he's willing to say whatever it takes. And they're happy to give him the airtime. The thing that's most disappointing is that these prosecutors, and Alvin Bragg stood up yesterday after the conclusion of the trial and said that this case was his quote-unquote bread and butter, these types of cases. As New York City is burning down, anybody that's been in New York City knows the threat, the menacing threat of the combination of homelessness and this illegal immigration crisis caused by Joe Biden. New York City is not safe. And, instead of focusing on ways to improve the lives of New Yorkers, Alvin Bragg is focused on this show trial against the former president in order to score cheap political points for his political overlords.
Yeah. And that is exactly why the polls look the way that they do. A new NPR, PBS News poll, Marist poll released ahead of the verdict, found that if Trump was found guilty, 15% of registered voters said that they would be more likely to vote for him in November. 67% also said that the verdict would make no difference at all in their choice for president. Cheryl Casoni, what do you make of these numbers?
Well,
Jump in here.
Obviously, this was politically, I mentioned this at the top of the show, politically, this is going to have the exact opposite effect of what Joe Biden and the Democrats wanted it to have. And we're going to hear, by the way, again today from former President Trump at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, because now back on the campaign trail. But Matt, really quick, before you go, I know that it's possible under sentencing that there could be prison time for the former president, but I'm seeing many reports saying that that's very unlikely. What do you predict is going to happen at sentencing on July 11th?
Yeah. Well, again, I can only talk about the way the system has worked and should work. I can't talk about in Donald Trump's case because that's what's been the problem about all these prosecutions is they don't work the way they have always worked. And so, but in this case, because it's a nonviolent offense, it's his first conviction, you would not expect someone in his similar shoes to face any kind of jail time. But again, with Judge Merchan and Alvin Bragg behind this effort, I could fully expect that they would try to do something crazy like that.
Oof. Yeah, and don't forget, before the sentencing, we'll have a debate, right? Biden-Trump debate, June 27th. But
yeah, I mean, obviously, we are living in historic times.
For sure. AJ, thanks very much for being here this morning. We so appreciate your guidance on everything. Matt Whitaker with us this morning.